Doesn't necessarily.
Hello, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. And we're going to continue talking about fear and conflict, what causes it, and how to deal with it, and how to let it go. So if you have ever experienced fear and conflict, or you still go through it from time to time, I know you're all enlightened and everything, but we're going to listen to what other people go through and what they're learning, even though we know it doesn't apply to us at all, right? Fear and conflict. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to continue with that. And I'm going to take a minute to do our anthem, which is I'm Not a Victim of the World I See, by Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. And allow us to get centered a little bit before we dive into this teaching. This is Earl Purdy. Welcome to Facebook Live. Here we go. Tell yourself, I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no. Say what? Of the world I see. Let yourself hear this. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my pa. I'm not a victim of events, circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I done to me, and that includes the good stuff. I'm not a victim of my future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yes, good stuff too. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Yeah. This is Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. We're going to be on page 30 in the blue Course in Miracles book. Chapter 2, paragraph 6 in chapter 2. Yeah. Separation and the atonement. Victim of the North, I'm not a victim of the South, not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me, including the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Yo, yeah. Sometimes does it seem like you are a victim of the world you see? Does it ever look like things happen to you and they are caused and being done to you from something from the outside that it looks like you didn't have anything, no connection to that whatsoever?
I suppose it's possible.
Yeah, it's a rumor. Yeah,
It's
it's a rumor there might be some connection between me and what I'm going through, but it's so much easier to blame y'all. It's just, it's my childhood. That's the reason. If my mother hadn't to drop me on my head when I was 2 years old, I'd be able to have relationships. I love to blame the past. You know, I love to blame. There's a part, I put it this way, there's a part of my mind that loves to blame others and things outside of me for what I'm going through. We're going to be on page 30 in the Blue Book, the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course. I remember when I first got in the Course in Miracles back in 1980. If you didn't have, it was three big books. And if you didn't have the money to pay for it, they'd send it to you anyway. I think they still do that. Yeah, I thought that was so cool. That's how much they had faith in what they were doing. That and it kind of shows you that if something is your path, somehow or another it's going to get to you. But I've learned through studying the Course in Miracles that that's true of everything. What's really for me is going to get to me, no matter what I do or no matter what I don't do. I'll say it again. A relationship that's meant for me, there's nothing that can stop it. But anything that's meant for me, anyone that's meant for me, there's nothing that can happen that can keep that from happening. Us being here today, that was all part of the plan. See, the Course in Miracles says we've already made it back to reality. We've already made it back to heaven, to where we came from. And that actually what we're doing is looking back on what we went through to get there. Sort of like coming in at the end of a movie, and you come in, and just when you come in, the hero wins, and everything going great, and they live what? Happily ever after. I used to love it when movies would say that as a kid. Happily ever after. So what did you do? You sat there, and you watched the movie from the beginning to see what happened, to get them to the point. So everything that happened in the movie, even the things that seemed like were not okay, that seemed like the tragedies, we realized at the end of the movie that was all part of getting the end result. All of it, right? Do you know that's true for you and everything that's happening in your life right now? That everything that's happening in your life right now is what you went through in order to get back to the realization of who you really are, and the love and the truth and the spirit of who you really are. So I love that, to know that the end is guaranteed. The end, according to the Course, is we are all going to do what? Live happily ever after. The Course says joy is eternal. That real happiness never ends. Real love never ends. So anything that can end, the Course says, wasn't real in the first place. So we're going to be on page 30. Here's the guidelines from A Course in Miracles. These are the rules for studying A Course in Miracles from A Course in Miracles, which is you need not believe anything that you're hearing. You need not accept any of the ideas. You need not welcome any of the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling, right? This is my favorite line. You are not asked to judge the ideas. But do you know that was one of the first things that I did when I first got into the Course, and I see other people doing, they judge the ideas. Well, I don't know, because this doesn't make any sense to me. That's why it might work. Yeah. If everything you've done so far hasn't brought you to a state of complete peace, then the answer is probably going to be the opposite to everything you believe and how you do things. So it's a good thing that the Course is not saying something that I already believe. Then it says, I'm going to tell you how you can give this meaning to you. Or how do I do that, Spirit? Well, use it. I knew it was a catch. But you have to use it. But this is the easy part about the Course, y'all, is that the Course is working with your perception and your way of seeing things. And so, therefore, the answers are the same place the problem is. So the Course says, well, the problem is in your mind. It's in your thinking. So what do you think God's going to put the answer? In your mind, where your thinking is. Because if it's your thinking that's keeping you from experiencing happiness, then it doesn't do any good to try to work for God to try to put the answer in the world. Because the world is coming from your world is coming from your thinking. So it would make more sense, don't you think, that if God would put the answer, would be correcting my thinking, giving me new thoughts. Now, here's the other good news. The Course teaches that those thoughts are already in your mind. That every thought that would project a loving, abundant, peaceful world for you, because the Course premise is that everything is coming from our mind. Well, it's great to know those thoughts are already there. I don't have to put those thoughts in my mind. I don't have to put the right thoughts. So what is it that I need to do? Well, the Course says what you need to do is get rid of the blocks. The thinking that's keeping those thoughts from creating the loving reality that you want to have. So the Course is an undoing, not a doing. It's easier. Don't you think it's easier to demolish a building than to build one? They cleared an area over near my apartment a few years ago, and they did one of those implosions. Took months to build that building. It took less than a minute to demolish it. That's the same thing that's true about your ego, your false ideas, your fears, the programming, the conditioning. Letting go of it will take a lot less time than the time it took for you to develop that way of thinking. So don't think that this process is harder than what you've already done. You know, unraveling the ball string is a lot easier than winding one up. So get rid of the part of your thinking that's telling you that the truth is what's hard, and the world and what we've learned in the world is the thing that's easier to do. It's just that you've been conditioned and programmed yourself. And so now it's become a habit. And so negative thinking can become a habit. So it looks like it's easier because that's your conditioning. That's all. And that's why it seems living a life based in fear and victimhood and anger and grievances. There is no way a life that a person is living with that attitude would be easier than one where they are getting guidance and love and peace, and they're allowing their freedom and their joy to happen. No way. No way. I'm so glad I'm no longer dependent on myself the way that I used to take care of me and to help me. So the Course says, so the only thing that's blocking us is some form of fear. That's why I wanted to go all the way through this section of fear and conflict. Page 30, here we go. The Course says, read me slowly. Paragraph 7. Wait a minute. Let me see here. No, I'm going to start with 6. That's where I left off last time. I want to do a quick review. Do you know it's possible to reach a state in which you bring your mind under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which is true innocence, without conscious effort? I'm going to use a lot of the substitutions that the Course in Miracles uses. I've used the definitions that the Course in Miracles uses for the words to give us a fresh perspective. You'll be surprised how just, like in other words, instead of love, seeing freedom. And instead of love, seeing abundance. So instead of love, seeing fun or happiness or health. Because all of those are characteristics of love. When you say, here's a good one. Is there someone you think you really love? Okay, ask yourself, if I say I love you, I'm saying I absolutely, completely, 100% trust you. So when you substitute the word trust for the word love, you'll find out real quick who you love. There's no such thing as I love you and I don't trust you. It's no such thing as I love you and I am feeling jealousy all the time with you. So we have to understand, first of all, the Course says you got to understand there's a difference between love and what's not love. You all need to learn the difference between it, what's love and what's not love. So everything that's not love, is it a form of fear? According to the Course, yeah. So what are some words that are, the course would say, are substitutes you could use for the word fear? Anger. Anybody got one?
Ego.
Ego. Hate.
Separation.
Separation. Guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Grievances. Lack.
Sickness.
Sickness. Attack. All of those things are forms of fear, right? So the course says, well, it's possible for you to reach a state where you can let the Holy Spirit guide you without conscious effort. But guess what? This implies a willingness that you have not developed. You haven't developed the willingness to let the universe or spirit guide you in every situation. That's the Holy Spirit. Another term for the Holy Spirit is true innocence. Your innocent right mind. So here's the key. What is it that God cannot ask you to do? Well, God can't ask you to do more than you want to do. Right? So love never asks you to do more than you want to do. So if I love you, I would not be asking you to do what you don't want to do all the time for me. But that's wrong-mindedness, very definition of love. Is that if you love me, you'll do what I want you to do, even if you don't really want to do it. If you love me, you'll sacrifice for me. I've heard it actually said that love has been called sacrifice. That sacrifice is love. If you love somebody, you sacrifice for them. Everybody ever heard anybody say that before? Okay, that's wrong. If you love somebody, you don't ask them to lose for you, because the Course in Miracles defines sacrifice as loss. That I'm going to lose something. I'm going to give up something for you. So the Course is saying, so I want to know when God is talking to me. But this just told me that when God is talking to me, I know that He won't be asking me to do more than I'm willing to do right now. That if I ask for an answer from Spirit, the answer is never going to be something that I'm not willing to do. Rule number one. Then it says, well, what gives you the strength to do something? Because a lot of people say, well, I don't have the strength to do it. Well, it comes from your undivided decision. So I got to make the undivided decision that I'm going to do my workbook lesson today. If I make the undivided decision that I'm going to do my workbook lesson from A Course in Miracles today, will I have the strength to do it? Yeah. I do it every day because I've made a decision. But do you know I wouldn't be doing it every day if I didn't think it was going to give me what I wanted? Mm-hmm. You always do what you think is going to get you what you want. What you say, Earl? You always do what you think is going to give you what you want, right? So when people say they have a hard time doing something, especially being motivated to do it, I always ask them, is this really something that you really decided that you want to do? Or if you don't want to do it, then you really don't think it's going to give you what you want. Right? So you're going to always do what you think is going to give you what you want. So there is no strain in doing God's will. But if you're doing God's will, is it a strain? No. So that's the same as saying, if you're doing something from love, is it a strain? No. If I love you, it's not a strain what I do for you or with you. So okay, does this person love me, or do I love them? Do I feel like it's a strain to call them? Do I feel like it's a strain to be in their presence? Do I feel like it's a strain to go somewhere with them? Do I feel like it's a strain to communicate? Am I afraid to communicate? Okay, those all show me that there's not love coming through me right now toward this person. I have some fear. That's all it means. Does it mean you're bad? No. Does it mean you're going to be condemned by God? No. It just means you're wrong. That's all. That's it. Okay? How successful would you be looking for something where it's not located? I wait.
0%.
0%, right? But if I was really kind and I was looking for my book where it's not located, would I still find my book? If it's in the kitchen and I'm looking in the living room, but I'm a nice person, would I find my book in the living room? Right. If I'm the worst person in the world and I hate everybody, and I looked in the living room for the book that's in the kitchen, would I find it? No. So the Course said to me, do you know why people are not happy? Why? They're looking for their happiness where it isn't located. And then you go, well, where is it that they're looking that their happiness isn't located? Outside themselves. They're looking for it by telling themselves if another person spoke or acted differently or behaved differently outside themselves, they would be happy. If my boss was different, right? My child was different. Or the Course says they're telling themselves that if a situation or circumstance outside themselves were different. Well, if I didn't live in an apartment and I lived in a house. If I didn't live in Denver, but I moved to Penn. So now I'm thinking that what's the thing in common? It's still outside myself. So when the Course in Miracles says you're looking in the wrong place, it means that you are looking for your happiness where you will never find real happiness. Now, you can get some temporary fake happiness. Don't get me wrong. As a matter of fact, don't you know the world specializes in temporary happiness? You want temporary anything? Well, this is cornucopia. If you want to be in a place where nothing lasts and it always changes, you are in heaven to be here. Do you want to be separate? Would you like to be separate? Bingo! Right? So people, well, how did I get into separation? How did I get here? How did I get into this body that's separate? Well, the Course in Miracles says, well, you wanted to be separate. You want to see what that was like. You're a consciousness, you're a spirit. You can create anything. You wanted to see what it was like. And so you had to be separate in something. So that's what made the body. Because if I'm going to be separate from you, I've got to have something that makes me separate from you and different from you. And I have my body, and now you have mine. You have yours. You know, if you're lucky, now you have mine. But if you're lucky, you might have mine. But you'll probably do what I've seen in the past. You get it back. What's the return date on you, Earl? Have you ever got in a relationship in which you could return the person? And certainly you wouldn't be funny taking them back to Best Buy. Because that wouldn't be what you were thinking. Okay. So how soon will you realize that there's no strain in doing the truth, that there's no strain in God's will? Well, the Course says you will know as soon as you say God's will is my will. See, I'm going to go, you want me to be happy, God, I do too. You want me to experience bliss and joy, Creator, I do too. Now, the minute you go, I do too, that's what I really want. You have joined your will to God's. I said, let's go to lunch, and you say, yeah, let's go to lunch. You have joined your will with mine. So every time you join, that's when you are allowing yourself, and you have the same purpose, you have the same goal, right? So the Course in Miracles says, read me slowly and stop thinking that you need to analyze it. There's no need for you to analyze something. I'm telling you what it means. So stop analyzing the Course in Miracles, please. So please stop analyzing the Course in Miracles. It doesn't need your interpretation of it. It doesn't need your wisdom put on top of it. What the Course in Miracles needs is for you to listen. Like he said, listen, hear, and do. Listen, then hear what you're listening to, and what? Do it. That's the formula. Listen to what I'm saying from the Course, but hear it. That's it. That's not spacing off. Hear it, and then do it. But do it means, with the Course, it always means seeing something another way. See, the Course is always about teaching us how to interpret our experience another way. That's what perception is. Perception is interpretation. Perception is interpretation. When you say you perceive me, are you interpreting me? Yeah, you say, now what are you interpreting me as being? You're probably interpreting me as being a man, a body. And then if you want to go, and then you can refine it. You might say, I'm a man of color. Then who's wearing a black top? Those are all interpretations. Those are all things you learn to call me. So all perception is learned. All a perception is, according to A Course in Miracles, is a learning. Okay, so take it slow. Then he goes, what is the truth about the lesson? He says, well, the lesson is quite simple. Okay, simple. Okay, but the lesson is simple, but you might overlook the lesson. So let's get this straight. I'm telling you something simple, but you may not paying attention to it. And any teacher can tell you that's very much so.
Yeah.
You always giving answers to problems that people think they have that will get them out of the problems that they think they have. But there's a tendency not to listen. Do you know why? Because you don't really believe yet that this answer works and it's going to give you what you really wanted. Because if you really believed that the Course in Miracles was going to solve your problems, however you deemed them, you would listen to it. It's just that simple. If you really thought this would really bring you happiness and peace and joy, your being hanging on my every word would not be hard. So the Course is saying the lesson is simple, but you might overlook it. And and so therefore, since if the answer is simple, but you might overlook it, then I'm going to ask you to do something. I need to repeat it. Repeat it. So I tell people I'm the divine repetition teacher. My goal now with the Course is to repeat it and also remember it. So you got the 2 R's. Repeat and remember. Repeat and remember. Repeat and remember. And I'd like to add one more. Apply. Yeah. Repeat, remember, apply. Okay. Sometimes your ego thinks you already know it. So then you won't listen then. Because your mind will go, well, I've heard that before. No, you listened to it before when you came into class. But if you really heard it, you'd be applying it. Mm-hmm. So because somebody says something to you over again that you heard doesn't mean you heard it. And any parent can tell you that, for sure. That you can say something to your children over and over and over again before they hear it. If you haven't been in a relationship, you know that's true. If you keep doing that, I'm going to leave. If you keep doing that, I'm not going to want to be in a relationship with you. If you keep doing that, I'm not going to want to hug you and kiss you and love on you. If you do that, I'm not going to want to come over and see you. You know, and they'll do it again. And then they'll do it again. And then they'll do it again. Why? They heard you. The lesson was simple. Don't do that. Or do that. But they, overlooked it, right? So you had to repeat it over and over again. I like to use regular examples to make this less abstract. So what is it that I'm going to do? Well, let me tell you what. I'm going to tell you the lesson. The lesson is simple. You might overlook it, so I'm going to repeat it. And what I'm going to urge you to do, what I'm going to urge, the word urge you to do is listen. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right. I see you. Are you ready? Okay, all right. Listen, the only thing that is producing fear and conflict in you and in your life right now is your thinking, your mind. Only the mind produces fear. No, it doesn't. Inflation. No. The stuff that's going on in Ukraine. The racial strike. The stuff that's going on in the school. The high price of gas in Colorado. Your childhood trauma in and of itself. What's producing your lack, sickness, and unhappiness in any form is it starts with an M. Mind. Okay. When does your mind produce fear and guilt and lack? He says, well, it produces fear and lack whenever you're in conflict about what you want. So every time you are conflicted about what you want, you make yourself unhappy and you make yourself afraid. That's so obvious that when someone says it to me, I go, what you mean? Well, obviously I'm unhappy because I'm only unhappy because I think I'm not getting something I want. That's all he said. But we go, I don't know what the Course said. All he said was, your mind is what produces fear, and your mind produces fear whenever it's in conflict about what it wants. So whenever you're in conflict about what you want, you go through a lot of strain. So if you're going through a lot of strain in some area of your life right now, it means you don't know what you want. If you having relationship problems, you don't know what you want in a relationship. You having financial problems, you don't know what you want financially. You having spiritual problems, you don't know what you want spirit. Wherever you are feeling strain, you're feeling strain because your mind is producing that strain because you don't know what you want. Now you might know what you don't want. People are great at telling you what you don't want. I want to take you out to dinner, but I don't want to go to McDonald's. So I can tell you immediately I don't want to go there. Then I go, where do you want to go? And what does the average person go? I don't know. Right? So you're having strain because what you want to do and what you are doing are discordant. You're doing something you don't want to do. How do I correct this? Here's the answer. How do you get out of the fear and conflict? You accept one goal. You accept a unified goal. You accept a goal that you feel total peace about. That's a unified, it's a goal you love. You know, I've never seen people not come up with the money to do something they really wanted to do almost no matter how much lack of money they say they have. I've seen that so many times, that when a person really wants, they will move heaven and hell to do something. They really want to do it, they'll borrow it, they'll do something. That's how you can always tell when a person doesn't want something, is that they won't do what it takes to have it. The minute you won't do what it takes to have it, then I know that you don't really want it. Okay? So anything in your life that you are not doing what you know it would take for you to have it, you don't really want it, so stop wasting your time. You're wasting your time. You really wanted to be a doctor, you'd be in medical school. If you really wanted a relationship, you'd be going home to one today. If you really wanted out of that job you're in, you'd be in another one. So stop saying that there are things that you want that you're not willing to do what it takes to have it. And then with the course, it's really simple because it's saying, all I want you to do is learn a new way of looking at things. I'm not asking you to go borrow money. I'm not asking you to go build a house. I'm not asking you to come up with how you could have the #1 record in America as a singer. I'm saying if you really want to have the kind of happiness and peace you want, all it's going to take is being able to interpret things differently and see things differently. You're in charge of your mind, so you know you could do that. So if you know the answer must come from God because it's something you could do regardless of your credit score. But let me tell you something. I remember if something's meant for you, I remember that I wanted to go, when I was going to college, I needed to get in there like 2 months after the classes had started, which they said, no way you can get in there. And guess what? I got in there. Yes, if the Course in Miracles, let me give you a little tip from the Course, because I've studied it so long. The Course says, nothing is difficult that is wholly desired. I say it, and what they said in plain language.
That's a great.
Nothing is going to be hard if you totally desire it. So the more you totally desire something, the easier it becomes to have it. What? What? Like my man on YouTube do. What's his name? Anyway. Point that I made. And so when the Course in Miracles runs down stuff like this, it's like you can really tell the difference between what's going on. That's what I love about it, because the Course in Miracles gets me out of denial. So what do you mean, Earl? Well, first of all, if I totally desire something, I'm going to create it, because to totally desire is to create. So all you have to do to create something is totally, 100% completely want it and desire it. Okay? Then it says, so make that a goal. Remember it says that the way you get the pieces, you need to have a goal. Well, make that a goal. Okay? Okay. So what is the first corrected step? The first corrected step in undoing the error, which is another term for ego. The Course in Miracles defines the ego as an error in your thinking. So every time you say ego, you could go error. So the first corrected step in undoing the ego or error is to know first what we're learning right now, which is that the conflict that I'm going through is an expression of fear. The conflict that I'm going through with my mother is an expression of fear, which means I'm in conflict. So whenever I'm in conflict, I'm producing fear. If I'm afraid all the time, I'm in conflict all the time. A person that's afraid, angry, and upset and unhappy, they have not accepted a unified goal. They don't really know what they want. And what they're doing is not what they want to do. So if you're doing a lot of things you don't want to do, stop it. Why? Because you're just making yourself more and more afraid. And if you feel afraid, what are you going to project? Fear. And then all of a sudden, what do you see more of in your perception of the world? Fear. That's the answer. Thank you. Thank you. Did you hear that? Okay. All right. Here's, if you really want out, what's the next thing you should say to yourself? Say to yourself, okay, that you must somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. So whenever you feel in fear, you just chose not to love. What does that mean? You didn't choose peace. You didn't choose freedom. You didn't choose innocence. You didn't choose God. Those are all, you didn't choose abundance. So whenever you are experiencing conflict or lack, it's just a place where you have chosen not to have abundance and peace. So if you don't see yourself as having abundance, it's not happening because of your race, creed, color, programming, what you've gone through in the past. It's because you have not chosen abundance. You haven't chosen love, or the lack or fear could not have arisen. So okay, I hear that. I'm not going to argue with that. What's next? He says, well, the whole process of correction. Did it say process? Yeah. It says the whole process of correction becomes nothing more than what kind of steps? A series of pragmatic steps in the what? Larger process of accepting the undoing. I'm giving you substitutions. Undoing as the remedy. Okay, let me get this straight. First of all, I have fear. So I need to say to myself, I must have chosen not to love. I must have chosen not to love, or I wouldn't be afraid right now. I must have decided not to love in this situation, or I wouldn't be in conflict right now. I must have decided not to have abundance, or I wouldn't have lack right now. I must have decided, I must have chosen not to have health for me to have sickness right now. Notice it says chosen. It says, say to yourself that I somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. And then the process of accepting the undoing of that fear can be summed up in this way. Notice that the Course in Miracles is not as abstract as people act like it is. The Course in Miracles, just today, I've covered one thing after another that was an instruction about what to do to get out of your fear and conflict. As a matter of fact, the subject of the whole talk is getting out of fear and conflict, right? Do you know why we don't listen a lot of times to somebody giving us the answer? The Course says it's because unless, it's so deep, it says, unless you're going to give the person an answer that's telling them how everything outside of themselves, or someone outside of themselves, how that needs to change, then they don't hear you. The more I say anything about the answer has something to do with you, the Course says you're less likely to pay any attention to what I'm saying. What you're looking for is me to tell you how to change your mama who's giving you a hard time, how to change your boss, how to change, you see what I'm saying? We're looking for, in other words, I'm looking for the answer I made up. Right. And then he says, well, the answer you make up versus the answer God makes up is any answer that comes from a human is always going to be an answer that's based on, if this were different, I'd be happy. So humans are listening for you to tell them everything that needs to change except them. And then they'll listen. You know, telling you how you can become wealthy through your own efforts, a lot of times gets a lot less juice than me telling you how you can be wealthy by getting married to a wealthy person. So I said, here's a book today on how to absolutely marry a multimillionaire. That's going to get probably get a lot more sales than me saying, let me teach you how to become a millionaire. So again, an answer that involves us is not an answer that we're interested in. Usually. It's always exceptions, like you. So let's get this straight. I know it doesn't apply to you. Okay? Okay, so these steps may be summarized in this way. Okay, now I'm going to give you the steps. Here's the steps to letting go of fear and conflict. Okay? First, know that it is fear. Stop BSing around and admit to yourself you're afraid right now. I'm in conflict right now. I feel insecure right now. I feel jealous right now. I don't feel my spiritual. In other words, know first that this is fear. Okay? Where does fear arise from? You tell yourself, well, fear comes from a lack of love. So I'm afraid. I'm feeling a lack of love. So what's the only remedy for a lack of love? Perfect love. Now, let me give you the Course in Miracles definition of perfect. The Course in Miracles. It's going to be mine. The Course in Miracles. The perfect means complete. So whenever you hear the word perfect from a Course in Miracles book, one of the definitions is what? Complete. So when you say you have a perfect love for me, you're telling me you have a complete love for me. That means there's nothing missing from the love. Okay? So the Course in Miracles is saying to us that complete love or perfect love will undo the fear, will undo the conflict, will undo the strength. So let's say that again. Now you would think that if saying this could eventually get rid of every fear, conflict, lack, sickness, and my perception of it, you would think I'd learn these 4 sentences. Right? It almost seems too easy. Matter of fact, I so don't believe just saying this would work that I don't see it. Not only do I don't see it, I forget I heard it. That's called closing this book and walking away and don't even remember you were in the class, right? The Course in Miracles is saying to us that the truth is simple. Remember, he started out saying the answer is simple, but you're probably going to overlook it, right? So we see this in real time. This sounds so simple, but if I told you need to go to 200 therapy sessions after you climbed up a mountain and only ate sprouts for 6 months, you see more people doing that. It's so fun. But if you say to people, I want you to say, know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. So perfect love is the undoing of fear. That's all it asks us to say. That's the only thing Jesus of the Course in Miracles asks us to say. Just say. Notice he said say it. That you didn't have to necessarily believe it, accept it, welcome it. You can resist it. You can find it hard to believe that just saying this will get rid of your fear if you do it consistently. He says it right there. Use it and you'll see that it's true. So if I don't actually learn this and say this, and you can look at it, you don't have to even necessarily at first even do it by memory. You could go, know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Perfect love is the undoing of fear. So you say freedom. Know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of freedom. So if I'm in a relationship and I don't feel free, I'm going to become afraid in that relationship. If you're in a relationship or a job or a situation or circumstance that you don't feel free in, that's where you feel fear and conflict in your life. Do you know you're feeling fear and conflict in the area that you're feeling fear and conflict because you feel a lack of freedom in this area? So what is the remedy for lack of freedom? Complete freedom. Complete freedom is the undoing of fear. Freedom from fear. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from separation. Freedom from anger. Freedom from guilt. Whatever. Right? So complete freedom will undo your fear. So Spirit will always want you to know your abundance so that you would feel free. Because the more abundant you are, the freer you feel. So love is abundance. Love is freedom. The Course says it point blank in the book. Love is freedom. When I used to get in relationships with people, freedom was the last thing I wanted them to have. I wanted to be able to control who they saw, who they were with, what they did with them. I had so many rules and that they had to obey for my specialness. The last thing I gave a person that I thought I loved was freedom. So if you're with someone and you got one of them GPS tags in their underwear so that you would know where they're at all the time, you might want to rethink the idea you love them. Somebody you love, the last thing you're doing when they're out of your sight is wondering what they're doing while they're out of your sight. That's the last person that you're thinking about what they're doing when they go out of town. Is somebody you love. Remember, somebody you love is somebody you trust. Plus, if you really know what love is, you know it's not about controlling another person anyway. The Holy Spirit knows who will do what you want just the way you want it, every time you want it, while you're learning how to find your happiness within. So even though ultimately happiness comes from within, you're going to be provided with your substitutes while you're still learning. So you win both ways. But you have to let Spirit choose that person. Because your chooser is broke. Yeah, you know your chooser needs a little work. Whether it's your job chooser, the mate chooser, the money chooser, the food chooser, right? And that's true. Think about it. It's everybody in my life basically that I've entered a relationship with has been my choice. So I was the one that said, I want you, I'm attracted to you, let me choose you. And then if it didn't turn out the way I wanted to, then that just meant that I was in a relationship that I was doing something I didn't want to do. I was in a relationship that there wasn't complete freedom for both of us in our mind. The Course in Miracles is breaking it down. Complete love will undo your fear. I'm not going to be afraid being around you if I feel like you love me and I love you. I won't be afraid. So he says, so he says, we have emphasized the miracle. And I get this, says, it's a miracle if you all express the undoing. He's calling it the atonement, the undoing. In other words, a miracle is a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. So an expression of love is, I think you're worthy and I think I'm worthy. A miracle is, I think you're loved and I think I'm loved. A miracle is, I believe I'm valuable and I believe you are valuable. So it's a sign of respect. So do you know that miracles, healings, blessings come as an expression of respect?
That's good right there. That's good.
I'm respecting you because I recognize how much you're worth. And in my life in the past, I created a reality sometimes where people told me, you ain't worth nothing. You're not valuable. Right? So, how is this value reestablished? Well, the way I establish the value in a relationship with another person is to undo any belief that we're separate and different from each other. So if I want to know your value, I have to feel like you are just as valuable as I am. And I got to see myself as valuable. Don't I have to see myself as valuable? Right. So the Course in Miracles says, if you want to undo the separation that you feel in between anything and anybody, what you need to do is start expressing respect to each other by reminding each other of each other's value and that you are both valuable. So you've gotten rid of any separation or difference between us. It's obvious then, when you are afraid, you place yourself in a position where you need the undoing. I'm afraid right now. I'm upset right now. I need the undoing. I need to do. So what does that mean? I need to know first that this is fear. I need to know that this fear and conflict is rising from a lack of love. And I know the only remedy for this, you could say truth also. Another word for the love is truth. So you could say the only remedy for a lack of truth is perfect truth. And perfect truth is the undoing of fear. See, the difference, I just changing one substitution can give you a complete understanding of that is different. Know first that this is fear. Where does fear arise from? Lack of truth. I'm not practicing what my truth path is teaching me. I'm not applying what the Course in Miracles, if that's my truth path, is teaching me right now. That's why I'm afraid, because if I was applying what the answer is, how would I know I would be applying what the answer is? Would I be saying to myself, okay, right now I'm going through a lot of fear and conflict, so what I want to do and what I'm not and what I'm doing is two different things. I'm doing stuff I don't want to do right now. So I need to come up with a real goal and get really clear about what I want. I need to know that this would not have even come up in the first place unless I chose not to be free and to love, not to love, or to be in conflict by not doing what I really want to do in some way. So how do I get out of this? Well, I get out of this by, first of all, telling myself the truth. Know that this is fear, this is strain, this is upset. Then I'm going to tell myself, Earl, this strain and upset is coming from a lack of truth, a lack of love, a lack of practicing the Course. See, you're gonna go through the steps. Then you go, well, what is the remedy? Well, Earl, you know the only remedy for the lack of love, for the fear, is complete love. If the fear is a lack of love, what am I asking for? Love. Now, why don't I want to do that? Well, Earl, you don't want to do that because you're using your definition of giving love. See, it's your definition of giving love that makes you afraid when somebody says they love you. Because people who say that they love me the most have been the people that I hurt myself the most all my life. Strangers haven't hurt me nearly as much as the people I thought I knew. I say it again. Strangers have never attacked me or hurt me more than people I know and people who told me I was special to them and that they loved me. And most people would tell you, they'd be honest with themselves. It's not the people that they don't know that make them afraid of love. It's the people that they did know who were saying they loved them and then was hurting them or attacking them. That's why we're afraid of love, because as soon as you say you love me, it's a part of my mind says, you're a lie. You're just saying that. You just love me as long as you're getting what you want. And the other person, they're being honest, will say, oh, yeah, that's right. That's exactly the way we do it. Yeah, you just told the truth. I'll be here as long as I'm getting what I want. As soon as you're not getting me what I want, I'm gone. Or I'm going to change the way I behave towards you to such a way so much you won't even recognize who you with now. First thing we're going to do is get rid of everything we enjoyed about each other. That's the first thing we're going to get rid of. Because you didn't give me what I wanted. So I'm gonna stop doing everything that used to give us the most joy and laughter and closeness. So the Course says, now, see, this is what the Course means when it says, go to the answer. Don't just keep going, okay, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to do? Didn't I just get through telling you through Earl Purdy in the book in front of you for an hour exactly what to do? That was God talking to you through the book in Earl. So don't ask me what you should do. What you should do is, I just told your butt. What you do is you say, know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love, or you could go lack of truth, right? I like to say lack of the Course. Because when I say lack of truth or lack of the Course, it doesn't seem so abstract because I have the Course. So then I can go back to the Course. See, if not, it's just another thing of, just give me the truth, God. Okay, and then the Course says, well, let me answer that. Here it is. You said this was your spiritual path. You said the Course in Miracles is the path for you. This is not the only path, but it's the path that you've been attracted to. This is the Word of God in a form that you said you could listen to. And so it will give you all the happiness, joy, peace, and abundance that you want. So therefore, if you really wanted it, you'd have the strength to do it. And since it's only asking you to change the way you think and the way you look at things, it's not asking for anything but that. Don't you dare tell me it's not something you couldn't do starting today. Because it's not requiring anything outside of you. So you don't have to borrow anything, convince anybody, rent a room, get in your car and drive. There's nothing about the answer of the Course in Miracles that you can't do today. So perfect love or complete truth is the undoing of fear. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick little recap. Wow, I teach best what I most need to learn, and boy, did I need to hear this today. I'm doing a lot of stuff I don't want to do. Too much. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm so glad. I know that my will is God's will right now, and there's no strain, because what this is asking me to do is a hell of a lot easier than what I was coming up with for my solutions, which always involved changing something or somebody outside of myself and trying to alter something out there in some circumstance in order for me to be happy. I love answers that don't involve other people. I love solutions that don't involve me trying to change any one of you. Give me a solution that I don't have to try to change nobody at all. That's the one I want, right? So I want happiness that doesn't depend on anybody. I want happiness that doesn't depend on whether or not you in my life or not, or you like me or not, or you approve of me or not, or I'm obeying what you want. You know, I like the coach, I want not this. I love the coach. It says something like, I want not. I went, what? Yeah, it's still a goal. I want not to have you acting crazy in my face. Not, I don't want you to act crazy in my face. Well, that's not the same as saying, I want not for you to act crazy in my face. That's the way the course talks. It says stuff the way my new age man goes. Don't say not. That's a negative. That's a double negative. That's going to make, you're going to produce negative. The course said, but if you're a true course student, you go, I don't care. If Jesus is a course and the truth asks me to say it this way, I'm going to say it this way. Yeah. Right? People like a lot of people. So don't say you want the peace of God. If you say you want the peace of God, you projected it in the future. I said, I do want the peace of God, number one. And the book told me to say I want the peace of God. So if I'm accepting that this is God speaking through me, through my spiritual path and curriculum, and it says, say I want the peace of God, then I just say it now. Yeah. But it also says it's perfectly okay for you to change it as long as you don't lose the meaning. So it also gives you permission to alter it if you need to alter it. But I just learned after 42 years that the more I do exactly what it says, the quicker I get the result it's asking for. Took me a while. It doesn't need to take that long for you because I did it for you. I did 40 years for you. Yeah, that's right. Wait till you get the bill. You're gonna go, was I in the hospital for a week? Because I was in the hospital overnight 8 years ago because of the defense against the truth and being healed. And I got the doggone bill, it was $25,000. I was like, what? You know? Oh my goodness. Show you the difference, man. Back in 1970 when my child was born, I didn't have insurance, nothing. And that's all you had to pay before the baby was born. You know how much they charged me? They charged me $350. $300. Does that mean my child wasn't valuable? You got a $350 child. Anyway, so, but she ended up having to stay longer than usual, right? Had to have operation stay longer than usual, a week. Now they kick you out. You had a baby in the morning, you go home by lunchtime. They don't keep you in the hospital like they used to, right? And so after a week, that bill was away at $750, including operation. And I still had trouble paying the bill. It's all relative. Yeah. It's all relative, So I'm just saying that all we have to do is be ready to take the simple and the easy path that we're likely to overlook because we don't think it'll work, so we don't do the simple things that's being requested of us. So if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, great segue, then you can go to earlpurdy.com and you can use, would you mind passing that back there, brother? You can use PayPal, Venmo, the Cash App, Zelle. I sure appreciate it. I teach, and God provides through teaching. And I know that God is the source of all our good as channels thank you for your blessings in my life. And I hope you're seeing me and what comes through me is a blessing in your life. It's so, you know what the Course in Miracles teaches charity is? The Course in Miracles says charity is seeing a person as if they've gone far beyond where they appear to be right now. Like if right now you're afraid, but I see you as being capable of being unafraid and loving. My charity is seeing something in you more than you see in yourself. There's another way of saying it. When I see the innocence in you, even when you don't see it, that's love. That's charity. So on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, I do another Course in Miracles Facebook Live called Hardcore Course in Miracles, 7 p.m. on Thursdays, Mountain Standard Time on the Earl Purdy page. 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. On Sunday, I do another Facebook Live Course in Miracles. And if you're in Denver, Colorado area, you can come and attend in person. And it's at 1555 Race Street here in Denver, Colorado, 80206. The one on Sunday, you can attend in person and watch online. The one on Thursdays is just online. I'm also available for one-on-one sessions. Let me bring 40 plus years into whatever the situation or circumstance in your life right now. It's called a clarity session. And so all you do is go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, and you can get the details about the service and you can self-book a session online. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving to yourself. All right, so here we go. 2 minutes. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot to do, but just hang on, 2 minutes. All right, I know you got so much you got to go out there and change in the outer. Make some more fear and conflict for yourself. I know you can't wait to get out there and increase your fear.
It's already started.
Yeah, it's like, already. It's so funny, because I still hear what you said. What I would say if I heard it was, as soon as this is over, or as soon as I have the opportunity, I'm going to reread this and I'm going to learn this prayer and I'm going to start saying it. That's what you would say if you really heard it. So here we go. Repetition. No verse that this is fear. 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 Fear arises from lack of love. 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 The only remedy for lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. The only remedy for lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Notice I'm doing it in a rhythm. I do things in a rhythm because it's easier to remember something that you put some juice into. Perfect love is the undoing of fear. 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 Perfect freedom is the undoing of fear. Perfect freedom is undoing of fear. Perfect freedom is undoing fear. Perfect freedom is undoing of fear. For perfect truth. Truth is the undoing of fear. Perfect truth is the undoing of fear. No verse that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect truth. Mix it up. The only remedy for lack of freedom is perfect freedom. Guess what? Perfect freedom is the undoing of fear. Complete freedom is the undoing of fear. Complete truth is the undoing of fear. Complete truth is the undoing of fear. Know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love, the only remedy for fear is complete love, complete freedom. So if you want to see all fear and conflict released from your experience, free yourself. As much as possible, do what you really want to do. Don't keep doing what you don't want to do. When you do what you don't want to do, you're making yourself afraid. You're creating lack and fear and sickness in your life. If you don't have the strength to do it, you haven't made an undivided decision to do it. Make an undivided decision to do it, and you will have the strength to do it. This is a very simple answer. We are giving you very simple answers. But you have to overlook it. Because there's a part of you that believes you need to struggle all the time, that things need to be hard for you. Obviously, if that's what you're experiencing, there's a part of you that believes in struggle. There's a part of you that believes it has to be tough for you. There may be a part of you that believes you don't really deserve not to be in fear and conflict. But this is the proof. This class is the proof. The course is the proof that there's another part of you that loves you now. There's another part of you that frees you now. There's another part of you that wants you to be out of fear. There's a part of you that wants you to be free of strife. That's the part of you that's giving you this information right now. And it's available to you. It's available to you. Listen to this and watch this at least 4 times. Get the Course in Miracles book on Kindle or in the hardcover. But if you say you believe that this will help you, then you need to do your part. And the part you need to do is to have a little bit of willingness. Did you hear that, Earl? Mighty companions, I love y'all. I love you. I love you. I love you. May the course be with me. And email me at earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com if you want me to add you to a list that I'm going to use when I am having advanced classes and workshops, so that you'll be the first to know. Just email me so I'll know. We're going to go deep.